Hello, my name is Dr. Thomas Maples, and welcome to my video cast. Today, I wanted to explore respect amongst children and the issue of values and childhood emotions. Before I'm testing this new forum with YouTube Live, so I hope it comes through. And basically, what I was taking a look at earlier this afternoon, I got a phone call from my 10-year-old, and he was telling me how he's having difficulties with friendships in the school setting. And so, one of the things that really began to strike out to me is that how is it that we tend to make friends? How do we begin to navigate this process of relationships, especially as it relates to children in general? And so this really brought out the theme of respect and how childhood emotions affect their capacity to respect one another and learn the various ways of working within relationships with individuals. And so part of what I was taking a look at with this in my discussion with him was that you can't really make individuals respect you. You really have to begin from a process of core respect and learning ways to navigate your personal strengths as well as your personal strengths and be able to promote those around people, and then also be able to work on and overcome any personal weaknesses that have. So, as a parent, I know one of the things that we tend to work on with individuals in general is we want our children to succeed, and we want them to have happy and healthy relationships. And so, how do we begin to model this process at an early age? Like I said, my 10-year-old called me up, and this was sort of the basis of today's video that I wanted to explore. And it really began to bring up this idea of values, and secondarily, it began to bring up an idea of how values are created. And so one thing with values is they tend to be binary, and they're dependent on two things. The first thing that a value is dependent on is direction. And this really begins to model what it is that we as parents want our children to have as it relates to direction moving forward in life. And so, with that being said, part of the values that our children begin to mirror are really dependent on the values that you have and what direction you want to move them into. And so, if you tend to value education, I happen to be a psychotherapist, and it's something that has been a deep passion of mine for a long time. I tend to write and tend to do anything I can to help individuals in the moment. What ends up happening, I value education, so this is something that I really begin to promote, especially with my children. And so the direction that we begin to establish in is really from this perspective of what direction you want them to end up in the end. And so, if you value education, one of the primary goals may be to either get through high school or get to college and begin to work from there to establish your footing in what direction that you want to go. Because with each individual success, there's markers along the way that allows you to judge whether or not you're moving towards that goal or not. And so, one of the things with having this direction, you begin to move them systematically into a perspective that helps them to begin to realize success and realize overall values that you have. The other part is going to be establishing trust over time. And so, trust over time is sort of a tricky scenario because children, they naturally do not have many successes behind them. As we begin to age appropriately and we begin to go along our own developmental sequence, we begin to realize more successes, which in the end will ultimately form the basis of the storylines we lead. So, if education is an important value that you have, some of the stepping markers will be getting through your K through 8 scenario, or if you're in a K through 6 scenario, and then the middle school scenario, then a high school scenario. And then what's that lead into? It could lead into college, it could lead into the university, or it could lead into a career. And so part of these, part of each step is more of a mile marker of where you're at as it relates to values. Now, what happens with trust is the more a child begins to develop the capacity to trust that they are able to succeed in the moment, they begin to develop a propensity for winning. They set a goal, they achieve it. If they have achieved it without failing, then they move on to a next goal, achieve that, and those each systematically become a process by which they begin to map the trajectory of their life. And so with children in general, it's really important that us as parents, we begin to take a look at the values that we want to begin to push them towards, and then begin to move them in that direction to where they can have success. And so today, when my 10-year-old had discussed aspects of individual relationships, it began to hit me. How can you begin to work around values that you're wanting? With him, it was he values relationships, so how do you begin to work on this within the context of being in a school setting? And so part of it is to make yourself more open and more available for respecting others. And this is a core issue that is going around, especially in our country, where there seems not to be that much respect happening for on any level. And so respect really begins to come first from within. Once you begin to respect the core strengths you have, you begin to allow those to come out more and to flourish in front of others. And this really becomes the basis from which we begin to develop our social relationships, as well as just our life sequence in general. So as you begin to find your strengths, the more attuned you become to them, and the more attuned you become to them, the greater off you are in being able to find other individuals that share common strengths. And so my name is Dr. Thomas Maples. I probably should have introduced myself first, but if you're on this channel, I welcome you. And I will be here giving practical parenting advice. I do a lot of different motivational aspects, and I am testing this out. This is a new live streaming capacity that I have, so I look forward to hearing comments that you may have. Or if you have specific questions regarding this video or others I've done in the past, I'd really look forward to hearing from you. If you like the video, please subscribe. I will begin to work on this forum more often as I have more things to present. And I thank you for joining me today and hope you have a good day. And until next time, I hope you advance confidently in the direction of your dreams. Bye.